Hey guys, Mans9132, I'm the Robot Wars Guru, and welcome to the second episode of Planting the Seeds, the show where myself and some other guests from the YouTube Robot Wars community moan about seedings from a show that happened over 20 years ago, and yeah, basically that's basically that. Joining me this time are, as usual, my two regular guests, SamElliott64.
Oh, I'm forced to be here. It's contractually obliged.
Yes, I signed it in his blood for him.
I'm looking forward to this one. Series 3 is obviously, it didn't have any seeds originally, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we've all come up with.
And of course, my other regular guest is Jimjamatic.
Hello there. This is going to be interesting? Question mark? I don't know.
And joining us this week for our special guest is a guy who reviews lots and lots and lots and lots of monster movies, especially Godzilla. It is, of course, that guy from up north, apparently, Alexthehunted.
Penis.
That'll do.
Oh, brilliant.
Why, thank you.
That's the tone for this episode.
Yes.
It's good. It's gay. I get to talk about something that isn't Godzilla for once. Hooray!
Woo! Who'd have thunk it? So, yes, Series 3 of Robot Wars. Very, very interesting series, this one, because, as we all know, there were no seeds in Series 3. This was because the producers thought that because they were basically changing the layout from Gauntlet and Trials to just plain battles, it would be unfair to seed robots. I think that's a load of bollocks, but whatever.
I get it.
Do you agree, or do you think that there was logic behind it?
I get it because, obviously, as the format was radically different for Series 3 compared to 1 and 2.
It's clear that some robots were made thinking Series 3 was going to be like Series 2.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, you have your robots that were built for the Gauntlet, and then they ended up changing the format to just fights, which obviously, it's at the end of the day, it is Robot Wars, so not robot games or robot games. So it makes sense. I know. Yeah. Okay. Well, Tether Games became its own thing, but like my point being is that I get the idea behind it, but the fact that they changed it kind of suddenly and didn't really give everyone notice, and people had already started building, it's kind of like but.
And the fact that the qualifying was basically the same as Series 1 and 2, which was it do a slalom, drive up a ramp, and drive back.
That was it. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, that was literally that was their trials. So that qualified.
So the trials was the Gauntlet. Ah.
That was the whole reason, like, robots like Trident and stuff had those like giant wheels in the front, so they could get over the obstacles.
Yeah.
It just
Why so many robots like Panzer and Brimher did well?
It makes me also think about some robots. How the hell did they do this qualifying? Like, what was the one that looked like Death Warmed Up, or what was the thing? The thing that Onslaught fought?
Armageddon.
Yeah, how the hell did that thing qualify?
No. How did Abaddon do a Gauntlet? Yeah. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, they would have got caught on everything. But no, obviously there was a lot of problem with not seeding robots in Series 3, in my opinion, because it meant that it was very uneven throughout the heats. I mean, for God's sake, look at Heat M. It had 2 semi-finalists from the previous series, a former grand finalist in that heat as well, and a heat finalist that did very well in Series 2. And then you get Heat P, which has got nothing in it but Dreadnought.
Yeah, Dreadnought's top tier though. As we said last time, should have been seeded.
It is not top tier. It's in this case it's a grey slug. All right, leave me alone.
the one chance that Smidsy had to win a heat, and it bloody got radio signal issues.
But yeah, so do you think that seeds were missing in this series? Do you think that they should have had them, or do you think that the seeds they didn't really bother the series that much?
Well, to be honest, also, like, especially with a lot of teams, so many teams at this from Series 2 to Series 3 had changed their robots so much that it was like I mean, you could probably get to 16 maybe, but I mean, I got 32, so but that's a case of, like, in hindsight, sort of like looking back in hindsight, but also what we would think when we saw this. But then again, like, when you got some robots that are from past teams that are just completely different, like, Killdozer to Razorblade and stuff like that.
Yeah, very true. But my 2 cents would be a case of if you're not gonna have seed, at least separate the semi-finalists apart. Like, obviously, as Anders had mentioned already, in the one heat you had Napalm and Was it Hardvark in the same heat?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had those two in the same heat. Like, why would they do
Well,
that?
Series 5 usually had 2 semi-finalists in a heat.
Yeah, but
that was because of the way it fell. Because obviously they went from 16 heats to 12. So obviously all semi-finalists returned. So obviously that meant that some
and when there were 2 semi-finalists, they were both seeded. And in this, it depends if you're going to have. You went from 12 heats to 16. Surely every heat can have a semi-finalist if they all came back, which I think they all did.
Apart from Kinetron, they all did.
I would say, apart from some of the like Panic Attack and Cassius and Mortis, unlike from Series 3 to Series 4, from Series 2 to Series 3, there was no there wasn't like many like big names like the big character names and the big named robots.
True. Even teams like Roadblock had changed their machines as well, so it was very different. So, but there goes my dog. No. So I think it's a case of, I think that if they were going to not seed teams, I think it would. I think it's kind of unfair that certain teams were given their own heat. Like, obviously Panic Attack and Cassius obviously did, but teams like, Henry and Napalm,
Cassius had Plunderstorm.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
And like I said, former grand finalist Pussycat. Hello.
Actually, with Series 3 heats, were they literally just picked at random?
I think they were.
So. I can only assume so. Which is incredibly unlucky for teams like Dundee, who gets Cassius twice.
Yes.
You have 126 other robots that you can fight, and you fight the same one you lost to last year. How unlucky is that? But
then you get bloody heats like you get Evil Weevil's heat.
Oh my god! I mean, but the thing is, again, we went from 12 semi-finals to 16 heats, right? Yeah. So in that sense, Evil Weevil, I can kind of understand being given its own heat because it was part of the championship-winning team.
Yeah.
It was a brand new robot, and the only other returning robot in that.
It was the same concept.
But you know what I mean? Like the other sort of name that was like Challenger 2.
What about you, James? What do you think about the whole no seeds in Series 3?
Well, I think they just should have. It seems weird that it's the only series that just doesn't have them. Like, I know it's going from like a different format and stuff, but I've still kind of thought they kind of needed to, in a way, because I just, again, the amount of like heats there was just nothing, like Heat P, as it was said, and and then you have a heat like Heat C where Razor was the only robot that was there to just win, and it didn't.
It's fair to win, and it just didn't. Did it?
Yeah, its only job was to win, and it didn't do that.
The heat wasn't even that good either. Like
no. But at least
look at the competition in it. I mean, Jesus
Blade.
Christ.
I would have paid.
Blade was garbage. I mean,
I would have paid to see Blade get crushed by Razor, but it stuck itself on the ground.
Blade was a worthy semi-finalist. Don't diss it.
And you also have some heats that had no semi-finalists in them. I mean, like Thing 2's heat.
Yeah. And Heat P as well, actually.
Yeah.
All you have is Dreadnought.
And Razor's heat.
Razor's heat.
Yeah, technically a Razor, yeah.
Yeah.
I will one thing that did bother me about the lack of seeds for this series was that I personally believe that obviously, well, first of all, they had no real reason not to give them seeds because, yes, the competition format had changed, but the whole idea of seedings, as we are meant to know, is where a robot is favoured to finish. As a battle standpoint, you can still turn around and say, oh, I personally think that, for example, argument's sake, Mortis is expected to finish higher than Plunderstorm. You can still do that.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. And also, I also feel that it did.
You could easily get a top. You could easily get a top 10.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it left out a lot of drama. I mean, when I was, because obviously this was only about you guys, but this was my first ever series. Heat of this series was my first series. So of course I didn't know that Beast of Bodmin was meant to be a former champion. Obviously, it was explained, but a kid isn't.
Heat I was your first ever Heat.
What? Heat I was my
first ever Heat. Yeah. Well, thank God you liked it then.
Yeah. No, I did. I thought it was a great Heat myself, but I don't know why everyone doesn't like it. But that's just me. But anyway, yes, it was mentioned that obviously they were a former champion, but as a kid, you don't really pay attention as much to the commentary as you would as when you're growing up, sort of thing. And I just felt that a lot of drama was left out by it. I mean, Plunderstorm losing out early wasn't even considered an upset, yet they were a semi-finalist in the previous series. You know, Behemoth losing in the heat final was considered a bit of an upset, but again, it didn't sound as impressive as, say, oh my god, the number, insert number here, Siege just lost in the heat final. You know, that just adds a bit more impact to it. And I feel that this series lacked that.
But sometimes you have, like, in Series 4, where Jonathan Pierce had to act surprised that Napalm was going out in the second round.
Yes, I will admit there are some things like that, yes.
Another thing as well, like, you know, obviously, you know, like in this respect, you've got ranked teams aren't there, but like you have to remember as well. Do you remember the hype there was when in Series 9 when Apollo and Carbide were in the same heat?
Yeah.
That kind of thing as well is kind of cool. Where like you have just this ridiculously over the top, you know. Why would they put two semi-finalists together? Well, just because, you know, for the lulz, basically.
Or Series 10, or Series 10, where you the top.
That
was over the top, yo. I will say this though. I mean, well, that's the case. I mean, because again, I actually quite like that idea. But what if there still doesn't mean they have to have seedings? Because I mean, it sounds a bit silly. But imagine giving robots a seeding, and then they they mix them up at random, so you can end up having the first, fourth, and seventh seed in the same heat, and then have another because it's still making them out to be favourites. But
it's still like I understand why they didn't do it, like. Because as Mike said last time when we were talking about it, the show was still kind of developing an identity for itself, and I think that probably didn't was playing into.
It's series 3 also. It's the only series where none of the grand finalists from the last series were in the grand final of the series after.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. It is. I mean, Series 3 in itself is a remarkable series, really. It's so standard. I mean, it's the only one which is literally loathed by many of the Roboteers that actually went there. I don't know if anybody knows this, but obviously quite a lot of production problems happened for Series 3. It wasn't well organised. A bit like our podcast, really.
The part that got me was that the robots were like propped on bricks that could just fall off at any moment, and like it resulted in a few robots just outright being slightly broken before their battle. Like I think
slightly.
Yeah, I think that was the reason why Undertaker was spun in a circle.
Or some robots stabbing people in their legs.
Yes.
Oh yes,
there was that as well. So I think we discussed Series 3 and its lack of seedings enough now. So of course, the main event. Now, of course, like I said, usually this is the point where we would actually discuss the seeds of the series, but as we've already mentioned several times now, there were no seeds in Series 3, so it's time just to go into our individual lists. This week we're going to be doing in alphabetical order, which means Alex goes first. So take it away, Alex. What is your list? Who have you seeded and why?
So I'm going to go from one to the bottom because obviously from the top down it kind of gets it gets less and less predictable. Yeah. So yeah, number 1 is Panic Attack because it's the champ.
You are joking.
What? I put Napalm. Shit, I've done this wrong.
I am in shock and awe. Go on.
Yeah. Surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
And even more surprising is number 2 is Cassius 2.
Oh, shit. Shit.
What? Oh, I put Napalm again. Change this.
It's just Napalm all the way down.
Oh, yeah, it's all Napalm. I'm sorry.
I thought you said you didn't want us to hate your list this time.
16 episodes of Robot Wars, all Napalm.
Oh, fuck. That's the 7th level of hell, isn't it?
There's no need for that, is there? Come on now.
and let's go back for another bombshell. Number 3 is Beast of Bodmin.
What?
Former champion, and it came third place in the last series.
Fair enough.
Then number 4, since Kilotron just didn't decide to show up for some reason, number 4 I've got Mortis.
Fair enough.
Yep, because it finished in the top 8, and yeah. Basically, that's what it was, and it was. If you look at Mortis for Series 3, it looked really good.
Oh, it did. It looked pinky.
Yeah. Number five is actually King Buxton.
Ooh.
Yeah, King Buxton there because looking back at its performance in Series 2, it did really well. Like it was beating Roadblock until it burnt out. Mm-hmm. So I think it had a really strong performance in Series 2. So giving it number 5 in Series 3 seems fair to me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6 is Behemoth.
Behemoth.
I say it like they said in Series 3.
I know, I'm only joking.
The moth of the beer variety.
Craig Charles called it Behemoth.
Craig Charles is a muppet sometimes. Love you really, Craig. If you're not watching, but whatever.
Yeah, but basically, yeah, because again, it's finished in the top 8, and Behemoth Evolution 2 looked really, really good, and then the Behemoth curse struck, and it struck forever.
It's stuck forever, yeah, basically.
So for number 7, I've actually gone for Hardvark, because again, finished in the top 8.
Fair enough.
This, despite them showing up without the person who could fix the robot, it did look quite good for the Series 3. Sort of looked like it sort of looked like Series 2 Dead Metal's cousin, sort of in a way, just without
I
claws.
can see what you mean with that. Yeah.
It was quite a nice little way of doing weapons as well. Like you don't really see lifter/saw combination, so it was quite an interesting idea.
It's the only armed saw bot that we've ever had, like competitive wise, in Robot Wars, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it lost to Henry.
Oh,
We don't talk about
mention that. We don't mention that.
Number 8 is Facet.
Fair enough.
Because again, it looked pretty good. Although I do think Facet was a bit overhyped, because when you see in its battle, like its flipper wasn't strong enough to flip Sergeant Bash over. It looked like it was like you could see it struck. Like it didn't have like a clean flip like Chaos 2 had. It would like sort of like lift them and then throw them in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, I think they made a mistake because they said this robot could do 48 miles an hour. I'm just wondering if that was the voltage of the motors.
Maybe. That's a very real possibility, actually. Yeah.
48 miles an hour. Again, no robot has ever done that in Robot Wars. Any robot combat.
Sabertooth Series 6, 70 miles per hour. Yeah, apparently.
No, that's just the speed of the weapon. They just
70. 18 more miles an hour and go into the future.
Well, Smith said in Series 4, how fast, when Julia said how fast is your robot go, they go 80. Well, they can do 80 on the road in the car.
yeah.
Number 9, and I only put this robot here because it was a semi-finalist, and it was in the second round of the semi-finalist, like Facet. It's Napalm.
Yeah, it's Napalm. Yeah.
I mean, fair enough.
Let's put it straight. It is the bottom. It is the bottom of the second round. It is number 9. It's as low as I could probably put it without just not putting it on the list.
Yeah,
to be honest, it did have a decent run in Series 2. Despite what we know about it, it did have a decent run.
It did, and it should have. Well,
it should have technically been in the balance, but
yeah. Never mind.
Just think, it nearly made the top 8 of a series. Just think about that for a minute.
Series 2 obviously best series. Then.
God bless Napalm.
But number 10 is Mace 2, semi-finalist. It looked pretty decent. I mean, there wasn't much changes from Series 2 to 3, but
it didn't need it.
Yeah, I mean, the most they did was improve the flipper.
Yeah,
was improved.
Not the flail though. The flail was perfect as it was.
Oh yeah,
godlike.
And number 11, the forecast is bad, and you better get running because it's a plunderstorm coming.
Hey, nice one.
I fucking love that guy. I love those guys. I really do.
If you hate them, you have no soul.
Exactly.
True. I mean, actually, if you looked at Plunderstorm, I know they had a circular saw in it, which they had to remove because it was hardened steel. Wasn't it a hardened blade or something like that?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Because it's a Plunderstorm with a sword, with a circular saw.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they just had to remove that. But apart from that, it did look good.
I mean, let's face it. It was a smaller design than the last one. It was a more refined wedge, and I think that could have done well had it actually worked.
Yeah.
And didn't they use that shell for Series 4 as well?
Yeah, did you?
Yeah.
So, anyway, number 12 is Chaos 2.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Because I mean, I know in Chaos 2's heats they were hyping Big Cheese more than Chaos 2.
Mm-hmm.
But but then again, like Chaos 2, it was a former Grand Finalist, George Francis, and a Heat finalist. George Francis is damn. I mean, look at Chaos 2. When you enter your robot saying it's better than Cassius, people are going to take notice.
Yeah, I mean, it was really giving it the biggins about it's better than Cassius, so
it was.
Well, it was, yeah.
So number 13. Even when I was doing this list, I still thought it's still a bit of a kind of like, I'm doing a kind of producer thing where I'm overhyping it. I put Razor as number 13.
Ooh, interesting.
Very interesting.
It does make sense considering its performance.
I mean, yeah, from this point, it didn't win. It hasn't won a fight, but I mean, it did win fights in BattleBots, but they didn't know anything about that.
It's guessing. Kilohertz, mate. Come on.
Because by this point, John Reed did say he said, "Oh yeah, I'm used to driving in America, and they haven't got a pit." So they must have, the Road Wars producers must have known.
True, but I don't think they actually got the VHS given to them or anything like that.
They weren't part of the Road Wars Builders Club.
From the people they stole the idea from.
So, Alex, are you telling me that the Robot Wars producers weren't part of the Robot Wars Builders Club? I mean, come on. Free VHS.
What if anyone's still got that out there? I want to see that uploaded onto YouTube.
I have it somewhere, but I don't know. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it. Yeah, but it's literally just the all it is the Road to the Road to Armageddon.
Yeah,
that. And then it's just literally highlight clips of the grand final battles. That's literally
it. I mean, I'd still like to see it on YouTube. It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
But yeah, and also if you look at Razor, you look at that and you think that thing's going to win.
The thing is with Razor, as much as we've all poked fun at it in the past and such, it looks good and it looks like a robot that the producer's going to think, oh damn, this thing's going to turn up, and actually if this thing works, it's going to win. So
I mean, hell, in the World Championship, it beat Chaos 2.
Yeah, exactly.
So it had a possibility to.
It technically hadn't happened at this point, but yeah.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of going back to on the Razor's Heat, that's just a little point I love about it when Philip introduced Razor's. Like, since the last wars, they've conquered America and Kent. Whoa! Too big was that? America and Kent.
I could conquer Kent if I had enough horsepower.
God damn.
Oh god.
Anyway.
But yes, back to the list. Number 14, I put Big Cheese. Because, I mean, it won. Wasn't it Best Engineering it won?
Yeah, Best Engineering, yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, so I would say if you win a side award, that can sort of count towards the seeding.
That's fair.
And the Big Cheese just looks. It looked damn impressive.
Yeah.
For the time, especially, as you can see in the episode when he was in, they were hyping the hell out of it for good reason because it worked and it was damn effective.
Yep.
Until it fought something that was even more effective.
But again, that's another case of the unfortunate draw. So
yeah.
If it was in Heat P, it would have been a semi-finalist. Let's just admit that now.
Yeah.
So it would have been the semi-finalist in Heat C as well.
Yeah.
If I hadn't faced Razor.
Yeah. No, even if fuck Razor lost. Moving on before I get the hate comments.
Number 15 for me would be All Talk because it was the finalist and it did look quite good. It was definitely. I mean, if you probably saw that in his audition where it just had to go around some barrels. I bet it was probably one of the fastest ones to do it.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's basically sort of like the precursor to Tornado in a way.
Good All Talk.
Yeah. Now, number 16. This is where we get into the more obscure robots, I would say. Number 16 is Excalibur.
Okay. I can see why.
I can see it.
Because, again, well, for one, the last robot, Disruptor, the most dangerous robot ever made.
Not by design.
by fault of engineering, though.
Yeah.
It was a Heat finalist, and it wasn't, and it lost in the Heat finalist it lost to was the eventual champion, and then they came back and with a massive upgrade in Excalibur.
I'm not
Like,
gonna lie,
Excalibur,
you got to admit, Excalibur does look tasty. It looks
It's amazing.
tasty.
It looks
Insert
good, yeah.
insert my random Robot Wars Arena 2 Excalibur here. Check me out. Ah.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Anderson's just going to put a picture of him flipping you off now, James. So that's what I was going to do.
Fair game. Fair game.
but yeah, it looked really good. I mean, just a shame it didn't drive right. But yeah, I definitely think Excalibur could have done better in hindsight. But if you were a producer looking at this, you would think, "Oh, this thing's going to do. This thing looks great."
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I think. Number 7 is another robot. I think Series 2, their robot was crap, but Series 3, their robot could have done a lot better. Is Technophobic. Number 7.
Interesting.
Very
Interesting.
Yeah. I like, actually, you got a point there with Technophobic because it did
In
look
fact,
really
Series-
good in Series 3.
The Series 3 one wasn't
So
improved.
I like the fluorescent yellow, but
At least had a proper weapon on it.
Yeah. It had a good lifter on it. It looked like it was solidly built. I mean, yeah, its biggest weakness was the fact that they put a petrol engine on it. But it did look good. I definitely think Technophobic could have done well in other heats. Like it just for some reason just decided to burst into flames.
I think it was unlucky that it fought a good machine in Pitbull because Pitbull was good. So
Yeah, I definitely think it's and number 18 it's a previous grand finalist, but it went out in round 1 in the last series. But it's a brand new robot. It's Pussycat.
fair.
Yep.
Yes. Which it's a brand new robot, but they are technically a previous grand finalist, so that would count against them. But they did go out in round 1, which is that the worst performance of a grand finalist?
There's Griffin as well.
True. Oh yeah.
That was like the heat right before it as well.
Well, actually, technically, you could say Griffin did even worse than Bodyhammer in Series 2 because they originally weren't even selected.
Really?
Yeah, they were reserved.
Yeah,
they were reserved.
They were reserved. Yeah. Do you remember this super heavyweight? I want to say Minotaur, which was basically the block with tracks on it that was into Arthur Chilcott. That actually pulled out, and then Griffin came in its place.
There was a few. I think it was that with Pandemonium, and there was another one. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Wheelosaurus. That was it. They were the 3.
Was a reserve.
They were the 3.
Yeah. But yeah, but I definitely think Pussycat again. You look at it, and I mean, you look at it and you think that robot's probably going to do well, and then it decided to break the rules.
I was actually reading about this.
Yeah.
Apparently they actually notified the production team that they were going to change the blade, and apparently they okayed it.
And then suddenly it was like, oh no, it's against the rules.
And then they shattered. And
From what I understand, is basically just had a box of They basically just had like a box of like saw blades, and I bet they probably didn't I bet they probably just pulled one out. Like they didn't say like, oh, we're going to go in with this one, like this purpose-built one. No, it's probably just like a box of saws you can get at the store.
Maybe.
I think they just changed it because the saw they're using in the first 2 rounds wasn't very good, so they just switched out for a better one. But
maybe. From what I can't remember where I read it. It was probably Wikipedia, which you should never read. But yeah. From what I understand, I was.
Who would believe this? Who would believe this stuff on Wikipedia? I mean, those people who write stuff for Wikipedia, those kind of people. Who would believe those kind of people, huh?
Fuck off. I used to be one of those people. Leave me alone. I said I edited like 6 pages. I'm not even joking. I really was not that invested in it at all.
But yeah, then moving on to number 19 is Undertaker.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean Havoc wasn't great, but Undertaker did look good. But then the Robot Wars production issues really let it down.
Yeah.
And Havoc definitely. I mean, Havoc definitely. It was a heat finalist last series, and it definitely Undertaker from Havoc is definitely quite a big upgrade.
Yeah.
To be honest, when you look at Undertaker in its actual heat, had it have worked, I think it probably actually could have won the heat because a lot of
Really?
Well, yeah, because I mean it had the axe, and I mean Panda
Had a
exposed
decent
tracks
wedge on
and was
it.
flat. Challenger
wedge
was
on it.
rubbish, and then you also had Evil Weaver, which was quite a flat, low robot with this fiberglass shell. If that axe worked properly, they could have done some damage.
I mean, even when Undertaker wasn't working properly, Panzer could still do bugger all to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Panzer won because Undertaker got stuck on an arena floor spike. That is why Panzer won.
Pretty much.
But yeah, so I think Undertaker definitely. I think we're getting into like the lower end now. So you know, we're getting into the.
we noticed.
Number 20 is Onslaught.
Really that low?
Yeah, because I mean, it was a heat finalist, but let's not forget its heat final was it just catching fire.
True, it didn't move. In all fairness.
Yeah, but then again, it did. I mean, it basically was the same robot. They just added on a lifting scoop. They just made it lift. In other words,
Yeah.
you know, not much, and also it lost again to the same robot that it lost to in Series 2.
Yeah.
So basically watching Onslaught versus Beast the Bodman is probably how Onslaught versus Roadblock would have gone.
Yeah. Had it worked.
Yeah, had it worked. But I mean, you know, decent robot at least. Did decently. Decent robot did decently. That's why it's a decent seeding. So number 21, I've gone for 101.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, it's a very, very nicely engineered robot in Series 2, very nicely engineered robot in Series 1, and the fact that they managed to build it for they claim for under a pound. It's
actually closer to a fiver.
Yeah. I don't think they would have allowed them to enter a fiver, though. the great rivalry between King Buxton and a fiver.
That's an unfair match, that is, to be fair. No need for that.
But yeah, I definitely think 101, I mean, I definitely think 101 was probably one of those robots that was built thinking that Series 3 was going to be like Series 2.
Yes.
Because I mean, offensive capabilities is basically just basically a stick. Is a very, very small spike that never worked.
But you know, it's still a weapon. I mean, its weapon was that it worked. The robot worked, and it just kept working.
Yeah, it was a very well built robot, and it kept on.
I think you only ever have one mechanical failure in 3 years, which is crazy.
Yeah,
crazy for the time.
Terror of all things.
No, that's crazy reliability for the time. Anyway, go on, carry on. Sorry.
I don't think you'd say sorry. But yeah, I'm going for number 22 is Kilohertz. Because again, it might be low for some, but again, if you look at Series 2, performance, it did break down twice in the heat.
I'd say more. That's I think that's quite high actually myself personally, but that's just.
Shut up!
It's true.
But also, you got to figure like if they did the application with Kilohertz, if they saw the axe, like the new axe in action with that thing, you go like, oh, that thing's going to do well. Oh wait, we have a big hole in the floor, and they knew nothing about it.
Oh, John Reed, never change.
But yeah, like I mean, I think actually at Series 3, Kilohertz's axe was technically more powerful than Shunt's axe.
I don't know. Maybe it was.
I think he said was Shunt's axe was like 500 kilograms per square centimeter, where I think they said Kilohertz was 700.
That's crazy. That is crazy for the time.
That's mad.
Yeah. But yeah, again, these are now getting into number 23. We're going for this was basically because if you look at they were technically in the battles of the last series, and they come back with a much better robot. Number 23 is Firestorm.
Yeah.
If you go from Groundhog to Firestorm, you can definitely think. I would say that robot deserves a bit of a seeding.
Well, look,
I agree.
I mean, if we remember, they Jonathan Pierce kept saying, this is highly fancied in the pit. So obviously the producers must have said to him, look, hype this up because this is actually really good. So they must have said,
And again, another way you can look at it is, I mean, I'm not going to be, it's a copy, but again, it's a front hinge flipper like Cassius was. It could be expected to do well because it's designed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's been proved to work.
Exactly. And for number 24, it's this is why I see, because they've been in the last two series, and they did fairly alright in both series, and they kind of deserve it. It's Dietor.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But again, I'm actually quite surprised that they're that low. Actually, I thought they would have been a bit higher, but fair play.
They went out in the third round of the first two series, and also this is where they had the reputation of this robot was just here to die sort of thing. I mean,
yeah, kind of, yeah.
Plus, also it did turn up in pieces.
Yeah.
So
in a literal bag. It did do that, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think Dietor could. It deserves a seed, but it's Dietor, so it's not.
Yeah, it is indeed Dietor.
I was going to say it's not going to light the world on fire, but no, it just does that to itself.
Oh dear me, that was dreadful. That's an Anderson caliber pun. That is.
Mate, look, this is how it feels. I feel bad every time I make horrible jokes on your guys' podcast. I'm not going to stop doing it, obviously, because it's fun. But...
You don't feel bad.
No, I don't. It's great. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Number 25. This is the only time I will ever give this team and this robot a compliment. Is Vercingetorix.
Oh really?
Because
I love the team, but not the robots.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, but this is probably the only time I will ever seed a robot from this team, because Vercingetorix in Series 3 did look good.
Yeah.
It did look good, and they did decently in Series 2.
They were actually second favourites of the heat.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a very stacked heat after Beta Bobbin, was it really? I mean.
But then they lost to a turtle, but
Terrapin, get it right. Gosh.
It's all my favourite victories ever, just for how dumb it is.
But yeah, well, let's be honest. The team did what it did best. Their robot just decided not to work.
True.
That's the reason why I lost.
Oh, sorry, I was just gone.
I mean, that's the reason most of their losses is because I mean, I will be fair. Like, the team, they can engineer a really good-looking robot, but for some reason they just buy the shittest electronics they could for the robot.
But in fairness, back in the, I'm not trying to defend anyone in particular. But in fairness, in those days, most teams had to make their own electronics. Back in those days, so I imagine it was like doing a heavyweight robot back in the 90s was a lot harder than it is these days.
A lot of self-made gearboxes.
They're from the Isle of Wight, so
yeah,
it'd be amazingly hard.
And they were disadvantaged instantly there, apparently.
Yeah, back then there was only
one. Think about it.
It's
an island in the middle of nowhere. How the hell? If you think about it, it must have been really hard for them to get the parts in Ireland in the middle of nowhere.
Just like Dietor, and very hard for them to get parts because Ireland in the middle of nowhere.
But Tish. I think they have one of the best self-destruction modes ever. When in Series 6 they fired their flipper and it snapped in half.
That was amazing.
That still goes to Spawn again in Series 7. I'm sorry, the gas going everywhere.
The cannon explosion.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Vercingetorix was a. I definitely think, like, if you look at it, it did decently in Series 2. And it looked alright in Series 3, but yeah, I can't really see myself giving it a higher seeding.
It was just a beefier version of the original, really.
Basically. Number 26 was a robot I definitely think looked good, but again, didn't look amazing, and they had a decent performance in Series 2. Agent Orange.
Ah, yes. Spin Doctor. I like that.
Yeah, that's
yes.
I mean, again, this is a great, it's like, if you look at its Series 2 counterpart, a Spin Doctor, which is a white hexagon. This actually has moving weaponry, and it looks awesome, and it's one of the very few robots of the time to actually utilise dual weaponry that complement each other. It's got the pincers that hold robots, and it brings the pickaxe over. I mean, I thought it was a really cool, unique, interesting design for its time, and it's really a shame that they didn't go further.
Well, yeah, because they failed to qualify for Series 4 and 5, unfortunately.
Yeah, which sucks.
It's a big shame.
I would have much rather seen that than Scorpion Thanks, producers.
Nah, I mean, Scorpion's great meat.
Masakari.
Scorpion's great meat material, though.
Did you guys know? This is interesting. Oh, sorry.
Scorpion didn't need to qualify. It was so good.
Yeah. Scorpion actually is the only robot, one of the very few robots in Robot Wars history that did not require a seeding to not have to go through the qualifiers, because the producers looked at it and said, "Yes, this will look good in the arena." Fuck off.
I mean, it did. It did look good in the arena, but.
Well, because it basically their failed Series 3 entry, but with a new face on it, basically.
Yeah, because it was originally a silver box with a chainsaw on it, and they just tarted it up a little bit with some paper mache, I think.
It's basically like a very boring Fraternal Frosty, basically.
They did the Simpsons thing where it's not any different. It's just exactly the same, just with a new hat.
It's basically what they did with Major Tom as well. Took the weapon off and then just put a scoop on it and then put a head on it. Called it a Union Jack. They went, all right, that works.
It had the same name, though.
But yeah, Agent Orange, I definitely think it's a definitely decent looking robot that should have done better. And I definitely think looking at it would have the producer would have gone, I'm going to give that a seed.
I would have.
This next robot it's a returning one. And, I mean, I know the robot he did enter didn't get in, but it's Corporal Punishment, the twisted, wedge off the ground Corporal Punishment. But it's decently, it's number 27, so it's not, like, highly favoured. Yeah. I'm really getting into lower ranks now. But, it did decently in Series 4, it did decently in Series 3, and, it's Adam Clark's been doing this. This is his third series, and I'm very struggling to justify this.
Well, to be fair, he'd taken a flawed design and he'd improved on it. The problem with the spikes was that they bent easily, and that meant that it couldn't drive forward properly.
I mean,
so it doesn't look as cool. It was an upgrade.
It didn't look as cool as the previous one, but
it was very generic. You could have put a fucking coat of paint on it.
I noticed recently rewatching Series 3 that it was the whole frame, the whole robot was twisted. Yeah. Like you look, it's not flat.
The whole thing's off the floor.
What annoys me is for Series 3, he had a really cool looking robot called Bone. Basically,
that was way better.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but if most of you haven't, basically, I'll put a picture here up. But basically, imagine 259 with like 3 spinning blades on the front, like a mixture of Revolution 2 from Series 6.
I was going to say it's basically like a proto Revolution 2.
Nightmare. Yeah, that looked awesome, but the producer was like, nah, that doesn't qualify. But the generic silver box with a twisted frame and a scoop that doesn't even hit the floor, yeah, that goes through.
In fairness, would it surprise you if it was the producers that broke the frame on Corporal Punishment?
To be honest, right, when it comes down as well, I don't know about you guys, but if you watch that battle again, Alligator tries to push Corporal Punishment down the pit, and the house robots stop it from doing so. Now, is there a little bit of helpfulness going on there?
Well, also, again, I mentioned this before. Anytime this fight comes up, I have to just bring it up. But which judge voted for Corporal Punishment?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I am sorry. How could you have a split decision on a robot that didn't do anything stuck on top of another robot for 5 minutes?
If Recyclops sitting on top of Mortis is considered good defensive action, then this was just all defense from.
And Alligator's taking more damage.
Donk. That meme will never get old.
What are you thinking? Actually, the house robots got bored, attacked both robots, and then just before cease was called, Corporal Punishment was just after the cease was called, Corporal Punishment was flipped up and over. How was this a split decision? Oh, whatever.
That's a discussion for another time. Do you know what? Robot Wars Guru it.
I will.
Yes.
I will.
Okay, so number 28 for me is Aurak's Revenge. Because it looked decent, and
again,
Aurak, it looked decent. The axe had absolutely no power to it, but again, that's in hindsight. That's hindsight.
Yeah.
And again, it was the original.
It did look decent. It had some good speed to it, and it could. I think it could self-right as well. That's what those little bars on the side before or something.
Again, it was a major upgrade from the Series 2 thing as well, from the Series 2 count.
The Series 2 Aurak was just basically just a pram.
It was Brute with a weapon. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, mate, Brute is top tier. Brute is top tier.
That's been up Brute too much. Though.
Yeah, none of that. None of that.
It's more like Wheelosaurus with a frame.
But yeah, All Extra Revenge. I mean, it looked decent. It could have. This is like the robots that. This bottom part are basically robots that looked good. That's the only reason.
Robots that looked
To be
good.
fair, I mean that is kind of what the latter seedings were anyway. In my opinion, it was just given to. It's like, okay, but we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Oh, this robot sort of looks good. It's got a bit of history. Yeah, we'll chuck him a bone and give him like a lower seed. You know, I think that's fair.
That's why. So saying that number 29. That's why I gave Dreadnought a seed.
Mate, I like the logic because they were seeded last series, obviously.
Yeah. I hate you all so much.
Oh, you decided to do this, not me.
I did, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I should have. I regret doing this now.
To be honest, Dreadnought Series 3 looked decent. You know.
I suppose so.
Yeah, it looked all right. Yeah.
It wasn't like in Series 1 and 2 it was identical. They at least changed the design of it, because let's face it, the Series 1 versus Series 2 one is pretty much identical design.
Isn't it the same design but just like a different shell?
Pretty much. It's slightly smaller. It's smaller as well, but yeah.
So just basically changed the placement of the fork mechanism. They basically just lowered it. That's basically all they did. The Series 4 Dreadnought is basically the same as the Series 1, but it's just got a new shell on it. That's it.
Okay.
Basically it. But yeah, it was decent. It looked decent, and it actually, looking at Series 3 in its heat, the dreadful heat, it was one of the better performing robots in that heat.
It's how you know it's a bad heat, yes. Really.
This made a heat final, ladies and gentlemen. This just
heat final where both heat finalists die.
Imagine being the Psycho Killer team and realising that your only battle in Robot Wars was a loss to Dreadnought. Jesus Christ.
And looking at Psycho Killer was basically a big wedge with an axe. Should have won.
Yeah. Dreadnought's two weaknesses: high ground clearance, so it can be flipped over easily, and a weak as hell fiberglass shell, which an axe should easier to penetrate.
Mate,
Robot Wars is frustrating sometimes.
It's more do you need to lie down, mate? Do you need to lie down?
I do. It's been a fucking long day.
Mate, I'm still frustrated the fact that the first Warhog lost to Dreadnought and a robot with sideburns that move. I mean, come on now. Come on now. The one-time Warhog does anything. The one-time Warhog does anything and it dies.
Oh dear, but yeah, like I said, the last Lyle numbers are basically scraping the bottom of the barrel. So that's why number 30. I'm only giving.
Oh, it's still going. Jesus Christ! I thought we were done.
Three more left. Number 32.
After the episode ends.
Number 30, and this is only because it won an award, is Millian Bug.
To be fair, it's fair enough. Actually, again, it looks interesting, and it did win most original entry, so fair play. I can understand that.
Also, the Series 4 Millian Bug was better. It was faster for a start. It actually did have some pushing power, unlike the previous one.
When you watch it against
Bumblebot.
Bumblebot, that's the one.
B.
It was
just B.
B. Not even B capital, just B.
Just B.
Not even the word, just the letter B.
Just letter B. Jesus Christ.
That's the Photoshop point. Millian Bug versus the letter B.
Can we have that can we have B as a seed?
Can B as the title of the episode, just B.
I'm going to make a robot and call it B. There we go.
B.
Just giant. That's B.
From Southampton, B.
B. But yeah, Millian Bug. It could have done. It looked decent. It was definitely fast. I definitely could see it like impressing in the qualifying. You know, it was probably very nippy and could have done something. That's basically the only reason. That, apart from it also winning most original entry, that's pretty much it. Same with number 31. It's the only reason it's getting a seeding is because it actually looked pretty good. It was a T2.
Yeah.
I can see that.
It's more competent than Tantrum in terms of fight.
I mean, the bar there is.
It's not a high bar, no.
It's not a high bar. But, you know, you look at T2 and you think that's a good-looking robot.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, as a design, it looks nice. It looks nice.
Yeah. I do like T2.
I mean, at least I'm not giving it to the bloody pyramid.
Oh, Tut's Revenge. Jesus.
Oh, wait,
Seed number
are you
32,
going to
Touch
do it?
Revenge.
Yeah, the best
Number
robot
30
ever.
Number 32 is not the Bloody Pyramid. Number 32 is Razor Blade.
Fair
Okay.
enough.
Fair enough.
That's
I'll give
acceptable.
you
Fair enough.
That is
I
acceptable.
can't argue with that.
Right,
Yeah.
so thank you, Alex, and join us
No,
next
I
time for
can't-
part
I
2 of
can't
this
argue with
podcast. I'm joking.
Hey, you said I could. You guys said I could do whatever I want. Thank
I
God I
did.
didn't rank every single.
I did.
Oh, if you ranked every robot, then that would be.
Yeah, number 33.
Okay.
I wouldn't have.
And at number 35, Brute, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, fuck off.
Memorable moment known as max damage. Who remembers max damage? This is number 101. Number 101.
Oh, it's 101 and it didn't move.
God's sake.
That's bad.
What would be the lowest seeded robot? What would, just out of curiosity, if you were to
Max
seed all
dam-
128,
Max damage.
Twitch
No,
Damage doesn't
Death
do
warmed
anything.
up. Death warmed up, lads. Come on
No,
now.
Actually,
Warmed
actually,
up,
play
probably, and
minus-
Stealth's got to be up there
minus-
somewhere.
Minus 160, Daisy.
Binky.
Right.
Binky. Binky's still better than Daisy.
Now let's go into seeding the reserves.
Right, well, that was a very interesting list. There was actually a robot I was quite surprised you missed off, which I'm going to get to when I do my seedings, which I'm actually doing now, actually, considering it's alphabetical
Okay.
order. I will admit there are some parts of mine that do mirror Alex's, obviously.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna breeze through these. So number 1, Panic Attack, reigning champion. Number 2,
Yes.
Cassius 2, runners up. Number 3,
Yep.
Beast of Bodmin, third place and grand finalists. Number 4, Mortis.
Bomber
I
champion.
agree 100% with Alex. It was a great machine. It was the best performing Heat finalist from Series 1 that was still in the series. It was a very strong performer in Series 2. It deserves to be seeded 4th. I also agree that number 5 should be King B. Very, very impressive run in Series 2. And I also agree that Behemoth should be seeded number 6. Now we start getting a little bit different. I actually put Facet at number 7. Because whilst GBH didn't make the top 8, I think overall it was a more impressive robot than Hardvark. I think that Facet was a more impressive.
The fact that Hardvark in the semi-final it basically scraped through each round,
Yeah.
and it went to the semi-final list basically dying.
Yes.
Was it in the fight with Cassius? They couldn't move. They could only go forwards and backwards.
Pretty
I
much.
believe.
Yeah. I also think that, again, heat-wise, GBH's heat was better than Hardvark's. Heat performance-wise, I should say. Sorry, Hardvark got a little lucky here and there. Basically, relied a bit too much on the old PPZ pushing atom of your opponent into there. Meanwhile, GBH is one of the very few robots to get 2 full-on legit KOs of its own. It flipped both Talos and
All those amazing flips of Ivanhoe.
on Ivanhoe. It was a KO. Shut up. I also think Facet was a better robot than Hardvark. I'm just going to say that now as well. I think it was a better robot. And as a producer, if these two were brought up to me, I'd say that Facet would be the bigger favourite to win.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fair.
Number 8, I've gone for Mace 2 for pretty much the same reasons. Again, I think that Mace 2 was a very strong performing machine. Of the 2 robots that failed to make it past the gauntlet in the semi-finals, it was definitely the best performer. Then again, it's not really hard. And again, I just think it was a better machine than Hardvark. So there we go. I have given Hardvark the number 9 seed, however. I think it's fair. They did make it through to the top 8, so there we go. Number 10, again, this might make a few chins hit the floor. I've actually gone for Chaos 2 for number 10. Because, yes, it was only a Heat finalist, but again, remember, it's a former Grand finalist.
Fair enough.
Previous experience is still quite strong with this one. It's George Francis. We know whatever he makes is good. And, again, you bring this to me, I look at Chaos 2, I look at Plunderstorm and Napalm. Which do I think's favoured to do better? So that's why I've gone for Chaos 2 at number 10. Number 11 is Plunderstorm.
They say every robot that George Francis has done is amazing. Yeah, I mean, we can't forget the amazing Ram Rombit.
No, he didn't make it. It was given to him.
He just drove it.
He just drove it. Yeah.
Get good.
Get good, boy.
Yeah. What? 11 I've gone for Plunderstorm. Because again, although it performed worse than Napalm, it has the award going for it. And again, I just think its heat performance was a little bit better than Napalm's overall. Napalm's 12 because come on, it's the final. It's the last remaining semi-finalist.
And also remembering that Napalm came to Series 3 without repairing the robot.
Yes.
I mean, wouldn't you? Mate, save the money. Come on, let's go. Because let's face it, they were saving it for Shadow of. They were saving it for Shadow of Napalm. Come on now.
Save the money and throw it in a bin.
Let's not forget in Series 3 they mentioned that Napalm cost $5,000.
How?
Titanium's expensive, I guess.
They could have saved some money between Series 2 and 3 and just got some money from scrap.
Imagine if Splinter came back in Series 5 without having done any repairs to the robot.
This box that's just like half chewed up.
Here's our wheels.
Half the arm. Why is half the armor sellotape? Well,
what happened here then?
Napalm, last returning semi-finalist, it gets 12th. That's fair.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Napalm is what it does best, and it just wins through being shit.
Yes. Yeah. Number 13, I've actually mirrored you here, Alex. I've put Razor down. And the reason why is very much what you said. I mean, it came first in both its Gauntlet and its Trial and its Heat, and it was winning against Inquisitor, to be fair. It is a robot where, again, I said this last time, imagine the hard-on the producers had when they first saw this thing. And I just think the number 13 seed fits Razor so well. Do you guys agree with that? I just think seed number 13, it just works.
I know 13 is the unlucky number, but if we go by Robot Wars, it's number 8 is always the unlucky seed.
Yeah, 8 was the 8th seed curse. Every single robot that was seeded 8th lost in the heats.
Yeah.
Panic Attack twice. There we go. Number 14, I've gone for the Big Cheese. Again, I mirror Alex on this one. The Mule, okay, it wasn't very good, but it won Best Engineering Award. This is from the same guy who won that award. It's a vast improvement over the previous machine. It looks the part. It's big, it's bulky, it's got a good weapon on it. And come on, I mean, it can pick robots up and carry them, man. I mean, that's amazing. Very underrated, I think. Everyone seems to forget about the Big Cheese. It annoys me. Everyone's like, oh my god, Wheelie Big Cheese was amazing. No, it wasn't. It never fucking worked. Meanwhile, Big Cheese, apart from its one heat where it actually did something for a change. Meanwhile, the Big Cheese actually, I felt, was a very strong robot. And had it been in, I think it could have won half the series as far as heats go.
It was certainly a semi-final worthy machine.
It was way more worthy than Trident.
But yeah, well,
imagine the semi-finals kicked off with Chaos 2 and Big Cheese. That's much
that would have been a good one.
That would have been brilliant. And then number 15, again, I'm mirroring Alex again on our original. I'm gone for All Talk.
Nice.
Because, I mean, again, just going by past experience, it did really well in its Gauntlet in Trial. It dominated its battle against Prometheus, I think it was, in the
Prometheus
in the arena.
Yeah, it was Prometheus.
Yeah. Not the American version, the UK version, which was just as crap.
No, that somehow came to mind first.
And also, we can't forget the fact that it bossed Matilda. We can't forget that. Now, unlike Alex, I've only gone for 16 seeds. I could only realistically say that 16 seeds would be in Series 3. I'd have one per heat. So, of course, I had a few heat finalists to pick from for the 16th seeding. And I whittled away, looked at all of it, and there was 2 robots it was between for me, and that's both, 3 actually, technically. Onslaught, Dundee, and Excalibur. And I went for Dundee to be seeded 16th because the way I look at it is Excalibur came, as I've forgotten the fucking name of it now. Destructo, that was it. It lost. It came 4th. It came 5th and 4th in its Gauntlet and Trials. Meanwhile, Loco, Dundee's previous machine, came 2nd in the Gauntlet and 1st in the Trial, and then it also did really well in the arena stages and only lost to Cassius too. And they came back with a vastly improved machine. It looked the part. It had an interesting set of weaponry. I don't think it looked as good enough to be considered, oh yeah, proper raw, but it looked good enough and looked the part enough, I think, to be, you've definitely made an improved machine here. You've tried to enter something different. Yeah, we'll give you the 16th seed. Get in, that's how I look at it. And that's the robot I was quite surprised you refused to seed in your list, Mr. Hall.
I'll be brutally honest with you. I forgot about Dundee.
You forgot about Dundee.
No. Imagine, you're in good hands. I put Cruella on the list last time, so I think I'm okay.
Come on now. Me and James had a shocker last time. You're all good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Ramesses II. The amazing.
It was a very limited list.
Ramesses II was amazing. Don't chat to me. It was ahead of its time.
We had like 20 teams from Series 1 to pick from. It wasn't really a very hard list.
What was it? Witch operated axe. It just fell and then they pulled it back up.
That was the most stylish way to break down some brick walls, and you know it.
But no, that's my list. So like I said, Dundee gets the 16th seed just because, and also forgetting to mention Onslaught. Like I said, it did all right, but again, that Heat final it wasn't very impressive. Meanwhile, Dundee actually gave it a very good go and had to be KO'd. So yeah, do you guys have any grievances with any of those or?
Not particularly. I think that's a pretty solid list, honestly.
Yeah. See, as you'll find out later, I've also done 16 seeds. And purely for the reason, as Anderson said, that I would struggle to get 32 because it's just so much. It's not really that good to choose from.
I got 32, so.
Oh, Jay.
Well, speaking of which, James, it's your turn.
Yay! Prepare to hate me. No, it's not as bad. It's not that bad. It's fine. Don't you worry. Yeah, so I went for 32, but I only technically picked 16 seeds.
Huh?
Well, I'll explain when I'll go for my 16, the top 16, and then something else will happen.
Saucy.
Oh, okay, so yeah, the first four are identical to everyone. Panic Attack, Cassius 2, Beast of Bobbin, and Mortis. Not a big surprise. And then I've got King Buxton as 5, because I think they had a very strong performance in the Heat, and also actually improved themselves in the Gauntlet by completing it, unlike no one else in their Heat, so that's a plus. Then I chose Facet as 6.
Oh, wow, okay.
Right, now the reason why is, this is kind of a theme running through this particular set, because what I've done is, I put myself in the eyes of a producer. Say, for example, you look at the robots that appeared beforehand and going, oh yeah, obviously, the top ones obviously make sense, and then you start looking at them and going, who's improved from last series, and how well did they do in their Heat as a combination? So GBH in its Heat was a very slow lift. It was an effective lifter, but relatively slow, and the whole robot was generally quite slow in itself. While you've got this, well, obviously producers are going to overhype things. You don't know how powerful Facet really is. But in reality, the flipper wasn't as powerful as it could have been, because it seemed to launch the robot over half the time, and the teams are very flimsy, the actual flipper. But you look at this giant improvement from this little bucket to this giant wedge robot, and you go, holy, the camera on it, and it's got all the speed, and you think, holy shit, this thing looks good. So I see the producers eyes sparkling at seeing Facet and going, holy shit, this thing will be good from last series. So I put it as number 6 just for that reason.
That's very fair.
Okay.
Similar with Behemoth at number 7, because compared to the previous one, Behemoth, let's face it, Behemoth wasn't its Heat win was kind of boring. It just pushed Elvis into CPZ.
If Razor didn't break,
Razor would have beaten them.
Yeah.
I mean, what did they do to Elvis? Pushed him to CPZ, and then they broke down, and then they died. Pushed the Inquisitor into CPZ. They got flipped over. They didn't do that well. Didn't do as well as they could have in the Gauntlet, and in the Trials they did okay. Nothing really too impressive. And then they got that face kicked in by Killatron. But the improvement though, it's bigger.
Yeah. What I always love about Series 2 Behemoth is, Behemoth is supposed to be like a Goliath, something huge. And Series 2 Behemoth is this tiny.
It was tiny.
It's so tiny. I mean, the Series 3 one is just a bit bulkier. The weapon has how to lift things properly now. It doesn't just pick them up and push them. Because Behemoth didn't flip anything over in Series 2. It just lifted them up a little bit, because it was only a soda stream bottle powering it.
I also want to say, Behemoth was very impressive in Series 3. I mean, if it wasn't for editing, they would have had two of the quickest KOs in Robot Wars history. It literally, because obviously the way it's edited, it looks a lot longer, but it lifted a Shark Attack, missed once, and then threw it over. And against General Carnage, as the guy called it, they edited it so it looked like it was longer, but literally all they did was just drive forward underneath it and just throw it over.
Yeah,
and let's face it, Techno-Loose as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and Techno-Loose, yeah.
And also, let's be fair now as well. I mean, technically, Pitbull, that was if Dead Metal hadn't have righted them, that would have been another very quick KO.
Exactly.
And it's really quick KO against Mortis. I mean, yeah.
Oh, the Mortis KO was great. Just lift it right over.
Amazing in Series 3. Fucking
I love,
hell,
I,
Arena
I love how you just
Spike,
dragged it to the pit.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I would say next to Chaos 2, probably Behemoth was one of the most improved sequel robots from Series 2 to Series 3.
It's why I put it so high, because I just looking at the producers and the improvement, and while it's relatively lackluster, while it did make it to the battles of semi-finals, his actual journey there wasn't like amazing. It was just sort of like it just plodded through until it got to a robot that could actually face it. Yeah. And then it was like, oh shit.
You're not wrong there. I mean, it was basically a case of there was nothing in its heat that was really at Behemoth's caliber.
It never had a challenge really at any point.
No.
No, I mean, Inquisitor was probably the worst robot it faced prior to Killatron, and then even then it just managed to lift it into the House Robots where they did their thing like they always do. But that was it. I mean, technically Inquisitor just got flipped over. He didn't get beaten, technically. Just the Killer went, no, I'm flipping you over this time. Never mind. So then, I put number 8, I put Hardvark. Because I like the improvement of it's got the arm on it. It's a little bit slower, the robot, granted, but the actual weapon was more improved. It wasn't these little forks that I don't think ever moved in Series 2. They were just there, either up or down.
Forks. I forgot they had lifting forks in Series 2. I keep forgetting it.
They were always up, weren't they? They were never down.
It's me. In Series 2, is it me or did the back look like the front and the front look like the back?
Yeah. They never seen.
I know which way was which. Yeah.
They knew. It would drive like completely different directions, but
the guy who built it wasn't there. That's why they didn't know.
That's not helpful. At least there's a clear front on Hardvark 2, at least, the second one. Then number 9, I put Mace 2, because I didn't make it to the second round like Hardvark, and a few other robots I've ranked above it, but it was, while it was basically a similar robot, they had improved the innards a bit more. The actual weapon was actually a lift. It didn't just do like Behemoth did, just lift a little bit. It actually went straight up. And was able to actually flip over robots effectively and keep them controlled in Series 3. So I felt like it deserved a place here. Then I put Plunderbird 2 at number 10. Because not too dissimilar from the second one, basically a wedge, but they did have a weapon in it, but had to take it off.
You mean Thunderstorm?
Thunderstorm? Sorry.
You said Thunderbird 2.
Yeah, sorry.
Blasphemy. How could you?
It doesn't help, it's the only one that changes the name for some reason.
Why did they change it?
I have no idea.
I don't know. It doesn't work.
I always thought that Blundersbird would work, but it wasn't a Blunder.
First.
Blunderstorm.
I bet that first, and then thought, hey, let's call the robot that.
Their names really did it.
To be fair, it got us an amazing song. That's all.
It was the best song. It's my favorite one they did. I mean, I don't really like Do You Ever Dream It that much, but I love.
I love the Series 2 song.
Oh, that one was pretty cool. The Series 3 was the first kind of like jokey one, like really jokey. So Chromalot air guitar levels of corniness. Then I put a Napalm at number 11 because I put them at the bottom of all the semi-finalists because looking at Series 3, you just look at it and go, it's the same.
Yeah.
Like it's not Mace 2, it's improved slightly. It's not Plunderbird where it's got a different weapon. It's basically the same kind of style. No, it's literally the same.
It's identical.
Yeah, barely, and like we said, there was no repairs made either.
And this
technically not Series 2 with a chainsaw.
Oh, sorry, yeah, the chainsaw was definitely one gauntlet.
Then technically, it's a broken version of the Series 2.
Exactly, because the chainsaw was supposed to be there. They put the eyes back on from when Mortis knocked them off. That's it.
The famous weapon of the mandibles was basically a mistake.
Yeah, were not meant to be the weapon, in a way. It was supposed to be the stupid chainsaw that fell off. I mean, Circulot didn't even cut it off, it just fell off. Like, Circulot was just pushing it into the brick wall and it fell off. But, whatever. And it had to rank it lowest. Not, biases against Napalm aside. It's just, out of all the ones that came back, it didn't do anything. Returning back. So, it just made it a little bit more, they put some of the parts that fell off back on again. And that's pretty much it. For number 12, I've ranked All Talk higher than everyone else.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because... The reason why is because I think All Talk was very unlucky to be against a robot like King Buxton in its heat final. Because it was very impressive in its heat. I mean, it almost made it to the end of the gauntlet, but then every house robot just piled in. And it couldn't get out. And in the trials, we need to say more about the trials. Yeah. I mean, it pushed the Matilda sideways to the end. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And it didn't have. I mean, granted, Prometheus wasn't much of a threat, but they still technically beat it. So, and then had a very just slightly outpushed by King Buxton in the end, really. And that was the only robot to really outpush it. So I was just really impressed with it. And also the Series 3 one, it's much more improved. It's got the scoop on the interchangeable scoop. It's faster. It's just got the same kind of bulky go-kart wheels, a little bit better armor, and it just seemed like a much similar design but much improved, and it felt just as good as the original in my opinion. So I had to put it in number 12. If you disagree or not, that's why I put it. Then Chaos 2 for 13, former grand finalist, much improved robot from the Series 2 one. Not much to argue with that one really. It was just a really good robot, and obviously future champion twice. Razor at 14.
Fair enough.
Because you know what the producers are like. See Razor. It's got the self-writing arms now, and they're like, "Oh my god!"
To be honest, you say you know what the producers are like. Even we're doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's scary.
That's the thing.
But the thing is, we're thinking like producers.
Yeah. That's what I've been doing with the series more than the previous one, where I just kind of picked performance most as the only factor. Then 15, I put the Big Cheese, because again, going from the mule to the Big Cheese, it's just like what?
It's a massive leap forward, isn't it?
It's night and day.
Well, literally massive.
It's like going for the tunnel in the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and and also the engineering award probably helped out a lot, and also it just was a better robot overall, and obviously
They managed to make a robot that could do Kill-a-Lot's job, but in way less of the weight.
yeah, he managed to lift up Sergeant Bash briefly, which I loved, before it clattered to the ground, but that was still pretty impressive for a lift. Like it was, because you think, bear in mind, this wasn't like a pneumatic flipper head; it was just like a very slow lifter, and it still managed to lift that high up.
Yeah.
It's so close to self-writing as well. That was disappointing.
Oh, it was. That was literally like one of those. Oh, come on! It was so close. They were trying desperately. You're like, oh, you felt so bad for them.
They were use momentum to like shake it, rocket it forward as well. You could see like
And
they're going.
it was so close, and it just wouldn't go over. Such a shame. And then 16, I put Excalibur, because I mean, going from basically this slow arm robot. Although, also, you're saying, also I think you mentioned, Alex. You said, I think someone mentioned it was about Heart of Arc having a saw. You forgot about Disruptor.
Oh yeah.
Arm on the saw. We mentioned Disruptor before, but we're still like, that was the only one.
You're forgetting a lot, aren't you, Alex? You're forgetting quite a lot this podcast.
Oh my god! How on earth could I forget the most incredible and most
I'm going to say, all right, sooner or later, I'm going to make an saw arm robot based off a crocodile called B, and this is going to be the greatest thing ever.
For God's sake.
But yes, that was my top 16. Anyway, relatively uncontroversial. The next bit isn't controversial, it's more just a different take on it. What I've done is, since there's 16 heats, and obviously one seed per heat, I've got here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to play producer here, and I'm going to pick 16 more robots. A second robot will go in every heat. That's not technically a seed, but they're sort of like producers' picks of a robot.
Okay.
Of a robot that go, Joe, either they performed well last year, but they just weren't good enough for a seed, in their opinion, or robots that were new, or didn't perform very well at all last year.
And had potential.
Well, a bit like what I did for the Series 2 seeds. So I did 6 seeds, and then I did 6 robots that would like standout robot sort of thing.
Yeah, I was inspired, but unlike last year where it was like 1 per heat, I've done 2 because there's a lot more room this time. I just thought it'd be a fun idea. I was inspired by that. So probably blatant copying, maybe, but
no, that's fair enough. That's fine.
I'm
happy with that. At the end of the day, it shows that I was able to influence someone. I'm quite happy with that, actually.
Oh, you've influenced me many times, Anderson.
You're giving Anderson power.
Not but you have influenced me.
Look, my arse is already big enough. I don't need to make my head big as well. Just
yeah. Some robots that you mentioned before, like are in the lower seeds, like Alex and Anson might appear in this list as well, obviously, because they're sort of like slightly below being seeded. But these are no particular order. They're just a list I had them like as I was remembering them. So they're not in any particular order. This last bit, I put Onslaught. It's Heat finalist, slightly more improved this time. There's a little bit, and Hypno Disc. I mean, look at it.
Well, yeah, that's fair enough.
I mean, look at that thing, and you look at that new thing and go, "Holy shit, that's going to destroy stuff."
And also, because it's going in the same heat as a seed, you can put it in the same heat as napalm, and then you are happy.
Yeah,
Napalm will win.
That is an advantage to the
Napalm will win because
Shut
it's
up,
what napalm does. Every time they try and put it in with a spinner,
A piece of
napalm
napalm
wins.
stuck inside the disc and break it, and it'll explode.
Did you guys actually know that Robogeddon nearly actually beat Hypnodisc in Series 3? Because basically Hypnodisc got pushed into the sidewall by Robogeddon and it got stuck in reverse drive for briefly. And then thankfully they must have got nudged or something because basically that corrected itself and then they started moving again. Obviously that was all edited out, but just imagine it, we nearly lost Hypnodisc in the first round in Series 3 to Robogeddon. Fuck.
That's weird. My third pick was Exterminator. You know,
yeah,
it's a very fast robot with a decent, at the time, more of a pick rather than an axe, but it's more of a grabber. But it seemed to have potential.
It was a very good robot for its time as well, Exterminator. Very good, and it's another one of those robots I think where personally, if it was in another heat, it would have won
easily. I agree with that. I mean, it was beating Panic Attack at one point.
It was so good. It was so good. It got to the heat final of the New Blood.
Yeah,
in series 6.
Yeah, definitely. Then there's Pussycat, obviously former grand finalist, new design.
Yeah.
Reason why it didn't get seeded was just how terribly it performed in Series 2 was a bit of a factor, unfortunately. But enough to get a producer's pick, I think.
Yeah.
Kilohertz, you know, performance in America, and also the new improved axe design. It just, you know, it seemed to be one the producers seemed to love for some reason. So throw it in there. Evil Weevil.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Has someone from the Panic Attack team, basically the same, similar design to Panic Attack in some ways, and it just, again, we all realize that Evil Weevil isn't that good, but at the time, it wasn't very good. But at the time, it looked good. It looks okay as a robot. It just didn't. It just had a very easy heat. Let's just face it. Griffin. Give it a second chance, because let's face it did pants in Series 2.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, it's a standout robot. Yeah.
It's a robot that's built for fighting, not a robot that's built to go for an obstacle course. Let's face it.
Yeah.
So, although it didn't really fight very well, even when it was supposed
to be fair, I mean, of course, this is obviously after seeing the internet battle from the grudge matches, and in that it did flip a house robot.
And it won it in the end.
And it won it as well. So, to be fair, you can kind of see where that becoming, you know, that's a fair standout as well.
Then there's Firestorm. Obviously, go from Groundhog to Firestorm's kind of a instant win, in my opinion. Agent Orange, one of the few robots to actually damage a house robot to a degree in Series 2, and also come up with a new design. So there's always a plus there. An odd choice, actually. This one's a very odd one, but I mean, I think about it. I was thinking, as a producer, it makes sense, but not as a casual fan. Is Daisy Chopper, right? Because think about it. Caliban had the first full-body spinner in Series 2, and we never got to see it work, because it basically tried to go against a robot 5 times bigger than it, and it died. Then you look at the Series 3 one, without knowing how powerful it is, you see this giant nightmare-like robot, this giant disc. It's the first flywheel. It actually had the first full-body spinner and the first vertical flywheel, and they both sucked. But we didn't know this at the time, because there's potential in Caliban.
And knowing the team, the team probably would have had a tantrum to get a seed.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, fair enough. Also, it could be hyped
I want it seeding.
And it's funny because Griffin and Dayshock are both in this list, and that was probably one of the worst fights of the whole series.
Yes, right.
Watching two robots that can't work properly fight each other.
But that does make sense. And again, as a standout robot, that makes sense. I mean, obviously seeding it would be ridiculous, but
that's why I didn't want to seed it.
Yeah.
If it wasn't seeded, it'd be like 30 or 31 or something, like Centurion level.
Yeah, the Daisy Chopper team just phoned up. They want an inquiry in your seeding list.
I should have thought about it first. I'm sorry. And then there's Deator, obviously. I was almost going to so close to seeding Deator at 16, but I thought Excalibur just deserved it slightly more, and there's also a few more Heat finalists I think deserved it more than Deator, but fun team, deserve a little bit of a go there.
Yeah.
It means that Firestorm and Deator wouldn't have been in the same heat technically, so there's that. Dundee. I didn't forget Dundee.
Man,
massively improved over Loco. Loco wasn't a bad robot, but it wasn't amazing. But Dundee's just really... It's a flipper and a saw grabber at the same time. It's got 3 weapons in one. And it's, again, very unlucky. It could have been at least a heat finalist, I think, in a different heat, easily. Dreadnought, just for the fact it's been there so many times, the producers gave up. And give it a chance. Plus, also, it does look. It looks
occupied space, so let's give it a seed.
Yeah, it looks nice. It looks nicer than the other two versions, which are just identical, pretty much.
It's merit badge. It's like, yep, you keep coming in. Well done. There you go.
Yeah, it's veterans badge at this point. It's old people's card.
Dreadnought.
It's got a bus pass.
The bus pass.
You basically said Dreadnought gets a participation trophy.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's got a series pass. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Also, it's 5. We just gave up after that. Undertaker, because of Havoc. Yeah. And also, it's a better robot. And if it wasn't for the producers fucking slowing up, I think it would have beaten Panzer.
Yeah.
At least easily would have beaten. I mean, hell, it was. As I said before, Panzer wasn't doing very well against a robot that could spin in circles. So, take for that what you will. 101, because you had the massive Robo-Doc, which I think was pretty impressive for Series 2 standards. Like
the World War One tank Robo-Doc.
Yeah, it's so cool. I do love Robo-Doc. I mean, I like 101, but I just like Robo-Doc's size and it's just tank appearance. And also the fact they had a really good battle. One of the only few good arena battles in Series 2 against King Buxton.
Yep.
So I think it deserves something. And Berserk 2.
I was going to say there's Berserk on this list. Yeah,
Berserk is on the list. I mean, come on, they're one of the one of the finalists in the super heavyweight category, and they got the team's great, and they made a massively improved robot over the last one. It's much bigger, the weapon lifts more, and it's actually lighter, which is weird to think. It's bigger.
Berserk's also another robot I think that could have been a semi-finalist in another heat.
Oh god,
yeah, the Big Cheese and Big Cheese and Berserk are the two bit ones I think of that are just semi-finalist material that were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, hands down. I know that those are my extra 16 producer picks, in my opinion, just robots that I think get a producer wet downside. You know what I mean?
I will actually ask you now, because obviously I did that similar thing in the last one, and you've done it now. Do we think Robot Wars could have benefited from a sort of thing like that, or do we think that it was better that they just stopped
Here's the thing: like you say like producer picks, but these are robots that we think look good. When the producers actually picked a robot they want in the show, they picked Scorpion.
Yeah, there is that. Okay, fair enough. Abort mission. No, go on.
So for me, it'd be a case of we know with hindsight that these robots are better, right? Or at least they look good, in hindsight.
Yeah.
At the time, okay, you look at Hypnodisc, okay. At the time, I don't think anyone would have realised, any of the producers, unless they'd seen, some BattleBots things with Nightmare or whatever else. And there's no way, for me, for my opinion, that, someone would know that Hypnodisc is going to turn up in the arena and absolutely shit on everything.
Yeah, if you look at the robots the producers actually wanted to hype up in Series 3, you got Toe Cutter and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I reckon Toe Cutter is an admission from yours, James, because surely if they're going to hype something up, they're going to show the watermelon getting cut. That's in there.
In my defence, this is more if I was a producer.
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
Just as another thing, apparently, if I'm right in thinking, Robogeddon was actually considered the favourite to beat Hypnodisc, believe it or not.
My 2 cents are if they're gonna we've obviously got the benefit of hindsight to know the Hypnodisc turned up being pretty good, but at the time it was not necessarily favoured or anything.
Yeah, well, there's limits to my system, of course, but I kind of it's just the way I was doing my list. If I was like a producer with a sensible mind, so would discard Toe Cutter and Scorpion instantly from the competition, putting like 6-pack Crusader 2 in, or hell, Dominator. That's better than flip-flop flying Henry. I can't forever.
Mate, Series 3 Alien.
Oh no, actually the General. I would put the General in. Out of all the football ones, General,
and 6-pack.
Yeah, 6-pack, the General, Dominator, and Crusader. Easily put them in.
Ripper?
Maybe. I don't know.
It would have still lost in round 1. It would have still lost in round 1.
They never won a battle until he turned to Ironside, so no.
That's the thing, is that robot, the Velociraptor robot, won fights when it became Mighty Mouse. When he made the brand new Velociraptor, it only lost fights. So it just seems to be, if he names it Velociraptor, it's going to lose.
I mean, in fairness, Velociraptor became Mega Mouse, and Mega Mouse lost in round 1 as well.
So that's
just my way of doing it.
Well, again, very very interesting list, and I quite. It's nice to see again something a bit different. And of course, that now leaves us last, but by no means least, my good Robocast colleague, of course. I say colleague, I'm his skivvy.
We don't get paid. Yeah, we don't get paid for that.
Yeah, we don't get paid. It's of course. Sam Elliott, what's your list, mate? Go on.
So, as ever, I'm the voice of reason, and level-headedness. My list.
Number 1, isn't it?
Sorry.
So Napalm seeded number 1 if you're
obviously.
Yeah, I'm actually I've gone for a slight twist actually. For number 1, I've actually gone with Panic Attack.
Oh bloody hell!
Yeah. Yeah. Number 2, I've gone for Ron. No, I'm joking. Number 2 is Cassius 2, of course. Number 3, Beast of Bobbin. Number 4, Mortis, for the reasons we've already discussed. King Buxton at number 5. Due to the fact that it was, as we mentioned already, it was beating Roadblock, but it, killed itself basically, and it was, it was a fast and aggressive robot for the time, and it was a decent machine. Behemoth, I put at 6 because I think so. As we mentioned before, robots like Facet and Hardvark were probably more impressive at the time, but in Series 3, you look at the comparison and you think, Behemoth has gone a long way in such a short time, and I think Behemoth would have been seeded higher for my personal opinion, but.
Actually, haven't we all? Most of us, we've seeded Behemoth
higher than
got in Series 4.
Yeah, absolutely. At 7, I've gone Hardvark. 8, I've gone for Facet. 9, Napalm. 10, Plunderstorm. 11, Mace 2. So I've gone basically for semi-final order. Where they went out and such. I think that's only fair. I also think Napalm would have gone higher than the other two, because obviously if you remember in Series 2 there was a bit of a doodah with Mortis in the gauntlet.
Yes.
So I think the producers would want to keep them on side. So
that's fair enough.
So I think they'd want to keep them on side. So I think they'd be seeded a bit higher. 12, I've gone for Chaos 2. I think it's just the most logical of all the loser keep finalists. 13, for the reasons we've discussed before with Roger Plant and the Mule winning the engineering award, I've gone for the Big Cheese at 13.
Yes.
Fair enough.
14, All Talk, because it was an impressive robot and only lost to King Buxton, who was very impressive in its own right. 15, I've gone for Onslaught. Because it lost to a grand finalist and who was at the time the champion, so there's no disgrace there, and they dominated Nemesis fairly. I know Nemesis had its issues, but it dominated Nemesis.
That's fair enough.
So, and I think it did really well in the Gauntlet and Trials. I'm fairly sure, didn't it? I can't remember.
It did decent in the Gauntlet.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, because I think the trial was.
It came second. It came second in the trials.
I think it came 4th in the Gauntlet.
Imagine the Gauntlet was very high because 2 robots completed and 2 robots got around 10 meters. So
yeah, exactly. That was a really tough round as well of Gauntlet. So yeah, so they did quite well in that. And then 16, I've gone for Razor because of course I did. Obviously. So I really like how we've all put Razor quite high because we all know that the producers will be literally creaming themselves over it.
I do. I think to myself,
if
we actually were in the mind of the producers, Razor probably would have been seeded number 3.
Yeah.
Well, in all fairness, I think we can all agree. How far would Razor have gone in Series 2 had it not broken down? Realistically, I think top 3. Realistically, I really do.
In all fairness, it would have been a grand finalist. The only robots I can really see beating it are Roadblock, because it was just so fucking big and massive.
And Cassius. I think it would have beaten Panic. It would have just gone straight to the top.
Maybe Mortis, because Mortis has got that ridiculous hard armor, and its axe was very quick and rapid firing.
Yeah, but Razor was very low. It just got underneath it and just carried it to the pit and put it in. That's what it does.
It would have done what Razor would have done. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I honestly no. I think the producer would have seen Razor and thought, realistically, what would have beaten this? And the answer is not a whole lot.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way though. I mean, had Granny's Revenge not have, Granny's Revenge not have let Axor win, I mean, they probably would have won the whole series as well.
Yeah, it's very true. I would have loved to have seen Granny's Revenge take on Really Big Cheese. Actually,
that would have been
fun,
fucking hilarious.
But
they got it the wrong way round, didn't they? They
they really did. But as I say, very true. But as I say, so I think Razor would have been given a seed purely because purely on the hype factor. I think they'd have put in one bit of a wild card seed. Obviously we mentioned a lot of other options. So
exactly, like I said, I mean,
Razor at 16.
The bottom seeds are always considered, like I said, for the robots that are they haven't got as high prospects, but it's still like, oh, you've got this bit of experience, you look good. Yeah, we'll throw them a bone. Fair enough.
Yeah. So I'm only going for 6.
It literally is the only way you can explain Stinger's seed in Series 4.
Yeah.
Even then, I'm pushing
legit
it.
the only, and even then, I still think it's too fucking. I love Stinger, but no.
Not in Series 3.
Spoiler alert for next time around. Stinger is not seeded for my list.
No, I'm never seeding Stinger.
Oh, it's interesting. But so I'm only going for 16 because having 2 seeds. You could have done 2 seeds per heat for this series. I think in a series of 126, you can have 2 seeds per heat. However, for my 2 cents, there wasn't enough there at the time to, justify going for the extra 16. So I think 16's good. That's probably a bit of a precursor as to what's coming next time, because I think I'm only going to do 16 next time as well. But
boring. No, I'm joking.
No. I'll explain why next time. That's a little precursor, but yeah.
Right, well, there we go. That's everyone's lists. Very, very different array there, sort of.
Because I remember watching your editing on the first episode, and how you put all the everyone's list graphic. Now you're going to fit in all of our lists.
Oh yeah.
On one page. Good luck with that.
We'll just do it in 2 halves.
Without, and I've also got to try and not fuck up this time. I mean, I fucked up last time. Apparently, Roadblock was seeded 1st and 8th. Apparently, according to me.
It was that good. It was that good. Was it?
Classic.
But no, yeah, we had some interesting lists there. We did mirror each other a little bit. A lot of the same robots were mentioned, but to be honest, that's to be expected. A lot of Series 2 robots did return. In fact, apart from Series 4, it was the most returning robots, semi-finalists and heat finalists returned into this series. So obviously, like I said, I mean, Series 4 semi-finalists and a lot of their heat finalists returned for Series 5. Series 2, apart from Kilotron, they all returned pretty much. And even a lot of heat finalists from Series 2 actually failed to qualify. Demolition Demon failed to qualify. They still attempted to come back. Oblivion, they failed to. They came back but failed to qualify. Inquisitor, exactly. A lot of robots. So this was kind of to be expected, but it's still been good fun. We all had something different to say. We all had different opinions. Alex forgot Dundee because he's a muppet, and
And B.
Oh, shut up. Who thinks Little Fly is a good robot? I'm gonna wait for Series 4 list, and you're gonna seed Little Fly.
Oh, yeah, there's no need for that.
Don't even.
It's the best robot.
Don't even. It's not. I'll not concede that.
Bolt from the blue.
Mate, no, it's all about Banshee. Come on.
No, my favorite robot's Mazakari because no one remembers it. It's their fucking best robot.
Without spoiling anything else, though. Next time we will be covering Series 4, obviously, in chronological order. That is going to be a very difficult one to do, I think, for a lot of people.
I'm going to make it now. I'm going to bet that Chaos 2 and Hypnodisc are the 1st and 2nd seed on everyone's list.
I'll do that. I won't do that just to prove you wrong.
Yeah, you will lose £10. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this video. Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much to everyone watching. How would you seed Series 3? Let us know in the comments down below. I really look forward to seeing what people have to say about this series. Obviously, it is a series about seeds. So yeah. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching. Everyone, do your outros.
What?
I haven't got the outro.
Pepperoni.
So
there you go.
Thank you to all my guests: SamElliott64, Jimjamatic, and Alexthehunted. I've been Anderson 132, the Robot Wars Guru, and we will see you next time for Planet Seas episode 3, where we're discussing Series 4.
I say,
vote for PewDiePie.
How the fuck have I managed to put up with this long? Bye, guys. Take care.